Hey everybody, we're back with 11.5 Issues Live. That's 11.5 for November 5th, Election Day. If you haven't marked your calendar, make sure you do that. And today we're excited to talk to you a little bit about school board. Say what? We're going to go over what school board's about and history and give you guys a little bit of a primer on it. So this week I had the opportunity of talking to folks all over the county. We were knocking on doors. We launched our canvases in Springfield and in Annandale. And then we also had a kickoff for some of the candidates in Providence. And was really just, going everywhere, talking to you all and looking forward to, again, bringing forth that accessible, proactive model of leadership that we hope that you engage us on, that we talked about last time in our episode. So, school board, what's it about? Two quick facts for you to realize the importance of it, because really we're in one of the most important school boards in the country. And so that's why you should really pay attention to the race that's coming up. One is, we actually take a guess at how much money goes into our school system. Send in some comments. Also, feel free to ask questions throughout this whole period. We'll try to answer some of them near the end. Almost $3 billion. And that's nearly half of our county's entire budget. Actually goes directly to our schools, which is, by the way, more than the budget of 40 countries. That's massive. And our county is 1.2 million people, which is actually bigger than 7 states in this country. So just to put into perspective the importance of this race and the importance of paying attention to what's going on and participating in the election. All right, so Fairfax County Public Schools. Where did it start? How did we get here? So in 1870, Virginia actually required public education. And so that's when we ended up having Fairfax County Public Schools. And it started off with just one-room buildings that were actually segregated by race. And that's an important note that I'll touch on in just a second. Until 1930, the population of our community actually quadrupled under FDR, when a lot of hiring increased. Until then, the 1950s, by the way, and it wasn't until then that we started including students with mental disabilities. And until later again, the 1960s, when we started including or integrating students who were African American and white, and making sure that our schools provide not separate but equal, but really equal education. And that's something we're continuing to fight for. That was actually in a period called massive resistance here in Fairfax County, when our leadership here was against the federal government's decision with Brown versus Board of Education, the Supreme Court case, to make sure that schools and kids weren't segregated by race. And of course that lives on, the legacy of the fact that we didn't incorporate students with mental disabilities until the 50s, and the fact that we didn't integrate until late into the 1900s lives on with us today, and we see the impact of it. And so now, part of my platform is, of course, making sure that we fight to ensure that no matter who a kid is and where they are and what their needs are, that they have an equal chance of succeeding. The other reason why this is really important is during that period of massive resistance, the name Woodson, which is actually the name of our high school, was the superintendent who led that effort to push against the federal government's efforts to make sure that every kid is treated equally. So that's why these names really matter. And when we say, name changes are really important, Lee and Jeff Stewart, which was, now no longer that, but Justice High School, those are all key because those names were actually changed deliberately in a time to make a statement about our position on race. In any case, that's a little bit of an overview on the history. So now we have, in more recent history, the Portrait of the Graduate in 2014, when the recent school board, set up a model where we're looking at the success of a child holistically, and not just looking into their academics or testing-based, standards-based learning, but really pushing for a more holistic, way of ensuring students are collaborative and critical thinkers and giving them 21st century skills that would prepare them. So, what about the school board today? And why is it important? School board actually decides a lot of the things that are impacting your children, and if you don't have children, that are impacting kids across the county, and staff. So one of the primary responsibilities of the school board is managing that almost $3 billion budget. They get to allocate all the funds, they decide which programs are prioritized, and of course budgets are always a document that reveals our priorities, and so those are really important decisions they're going to be making. The school board also appoints the superintendent. So it operates like a kind of like a company where you have a board of directors and they, hire a CEO. The school board is responsible for holding the superintendent accountable, hiring them, and overseeing the entire process of the Fairfax County Public School staff and administration. And so that's something that you want to make sure you elect a responsible school board that's going to be able to do that effectively. The school board also oversees staffing. They determine teacher wages. The school board is a community resource as well. So being out there for the community when there are cases of mishandling, or when students or staff have complaints, that they can come to the school board. And the school board's responsibility is to reach out to the community as well, to hear what their needs are and to be there for them. So those are some of the school board responsibilities. So how does it come about to do that? So in Fairfax County, we have 9 districts. 12 members sit on the school board. Those 12 are made up of 1 representative of each of those 9 districts and 3 members who are elected county-wide. So that 9 plus 3, you get 12. I'm running for one of those county-wide seats, and they all come together to achieve to set goals and achieve them for these responsibilities. So the schedule that they go through is, starting in July, they'll start having a governance meeting where they start discussing their strategic objectives and their plan for the year. And of course, the 9 members will always make sure they're listening to the districts. The countywide people will make sure that things are across the county happening in a way that's equitable and fair. And then they'll start meeting regularly. They have meetings that are school board meetings that are public right here in all school board meetings are public, but that are like a public session. You have an opportunity to speak if you want to speak. That happened right here at Luther Jackson Middle School, which is why we're actually right here filming from today. And if you just walk in through those doors, to the left is the auditorium, and those are every other week on Thursday evenings. And then the school board also has work sessions, which tend to happen on Mondays, where they really hash out some of the details of where they want to move forward on various issues. And of course, public hearings and the budget process and all those kinds of other meetings that they have. Now, as they have these regular meetings, the budget process, which I mentioned is one of the most important responsibilities of the school board, starts in about January. The superintendent proposes a budget to the school board, and they hash it out, go back and forth, see what they can cut and add and how they want to shape it up, all the way through May. And that's a process when the community can come out. And I highly encourage all of you, whether it's in July or through in the fall or any time through the budget season, to sign up for a citizen engagement, portion. And depending on what kind of meeting it is, you sign up 3 or 10 days in advance. But it's all available on the Fairfax County Public Schools website to let the school board hear what you have to say. There are sometimes students who come out, and we actually had a student of our own who came and spoke about reducing plastics and recycling. And it can lead to real impacts. And other ways to participate too are citizen committees. So the school board gets to appoint folks. There are many, many committees. There's one on special education. There's one on minority student achievement oversight, which we're going to talk a little bit more about at some point. There's a committee that oversees facilities. I chaired the HR, the Human Resources Committee this year. So all sorts of committees on various issues that meet, and each school board member ends up appointing someone to them. And there are also subject matter experts in addition, some staff, and they come up with advice that they then present at the end of the year to the school board. So you have various ways of engaging with school board members to make sure that your voice is heard. And again, I highly encourage you not only to vote, of course, on November 5th to really choose that board that you want to see represent your values, but to participate in other ways and to come to meetings and physically here. And the other place where the school board meets is actually right across the street, the Gatehouse Administration Center, which was where they tend to have their work sessions and other meetings. So, to make sure you stay involved and are aware of what's going on. And in terms of my own platform, ensuring that not only I'm accessible, as I've mentioned in my previous episode, but that we look at our county holistically. So there's an approach called targeted universalism that I really hope to look into bringing to Fairfax County. And what that is by looking at the needs of the most vulnerable member of our community and ensuring that their needs are tended to, we ultimately end up serving everyone across the county. So I would encourage you to read more about it. We'll be posting more about various topics. Next week, we're going to talk about mental health and give some more information on that. We will also in the future be talking a little bit more in depth about the budget because it's really confusing and can be a lot of numbers for folks. So we're going to try to break it down. And again, we encourage comments, give us some feedback as to what you want to hear more about. We're going to do our best to make it as easy as possible. This is the first step to educate yourself, to get involved, to come out here and voice your opinions, and then to make sure you vote on 11/5. So this is just another episode of 11/5 Issues Live. I look forward to seeing you around the county. Sign up for office hours. Until next time, 11/5 Issues Live.